All right, welcome back to the Breakfast Connect show on Africa Business Radio. It's time for us to get into News Express. It's Monday morning, and we're getting into News Express this morning on the show. Of course, brought to you by Business AM, Nigeria's fastest growing financial and business newspaper. And we'll be looking straight into the headlines this morning of Business AM. We'll be seeing what stories are topping the front page at this time. All right, so we have this one here. NLNG's $7 billion Train 7 faces headwinds as Bonny Kingdom kicks over local content. We have that one as the very first story on Business AM this morning. And just below that story there, we have COVID-19 pressure holds Nigeria remittance inflows by jugular. And quickly into the summary section, we have Nigeria's leading transport journalist joins Business AM. Of course, you can find that one on page 7. As to the finance and investment segment, market heads for correction. We saw how the market went, the position that it took last week, and you can catch that one on page 10. Seplat's numbers see the chill. That one's on energy, power, and renewable section. And over to the insurance and business segment now of the paper, we have insurance brokers in digital era. You can also pick up stories from the transport business and commodities and agriculture on pages 28 and 24. And I've got publisher Business AM Philip Isapa joining me for conversations this morning. Good morning, Mr. Philip. It's great to have you on the show.
Good morning, Rachel. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. How was your weekend?
Well, a fantastic weekend. You had a rush of activities coming from the central bank. You get five naira if you bring in $1. You see, people are already talking about that, and we're wondering. There's a lot to say about that.
Right.
At the moment.
All right. I'd like for us to focus our attention now on the story on page 4 about the suspension of SIM registration and the resultant effect it has had on total active internet subscribers. We saw a 1.95% dip. But Mr. Philip, that is not even the case now. I tell you, right now, some individuals have had to go on with regular activities without the internet, without SIM cards either, because maybe it was stolen or it was blocked and they cannot really retrieve them, or new users cannot, jump in and get new SIM cards and all of that and get on board. And yes, the NCC, they've come out to say that this directive to suspend the registration of new SIM cards was to embark on another audit of the subscriber registration database. But this was in December. We're already into March, Any idea how much longer before it gets back to normal?
Yeah, it will be difficult to tell at the moment. Recall that there were a number of issues. You had the security issues, the banditry, the terrorism that was going on up north, and across kidnappings that were going on in different parts of the country. That was primarily the reason. Recall that MTN was sanctioned some years ago. That huge amount of money that MTN was asked to pay because of its SIM registration not being capturing certain details, and issuing SIM cards that were not actually registered. All of that has have been building up with these security issues going on across the country. And then you had the issue of fraud. That was they're coming on through. You must have been following what's been going on on social media about someone talking about wire. How they're able to retrieve or to steal money from people's accounts by just using SIM cards. And all of that played up to the whole issue of this suspension. Now, federal government wanted to do an audit of the current situation, and then to see what SIM cards, the MNOs, had on their books.
Right.
And then you tie that up. They came up with the issue of tying that up with a registration for national identity card number, and the whole thing just created a whole ruckus, across the economy and across the nation, So how long will that continue? Again, it's the lack of tidiness, what you would call tardiness in the way policies are formulated and how they implement those policies. This has dragged on now. We're in March. You probably go to April, May, and nothing seemed to happen. Now, but that's having a whole lot of effect on both, like we've seen in terms of the what's it called, the numbers. Mobile
of active numbers, subscribers.
Yes, active subscribers and the rest of it. And then a whole lot of people who have lost their SIM cards and they just want to get back on the system, and then they are asked not that will not be possible, So these are things that they ought to take into consideration, and then have policies that have definitive purposes, that have definitive direction and have definitive goals. Where are they going with this? And you see numbers are dropping.
All right, so let's move over to page 11. Now, I still have this interesting headline here. Investors bearish as CBN moves to phase out foreign players from Omo Bills market. The Naira edged against the dollar by 2 Naira week on week in the street market, but it sort of wobbled at the I&E window at the end of last week. And this week, system liquidity expected to be raised with CBN's Omo maturities worth 50 billion Naira. What more can you tell us?
What is investors bearish? CBN talking about phasing out. Recall, Rachel, that some time ago, was it last year, the CBN excluded domestic players from treasury bills trading. And that caused a whole lot of ruckus in the market. Because you now had a situation where interest rates went almost negative, went down, and that was one of the reasons responsible for the capital market getting some uptick. The rally last year on the capital market was as a result of investors looking for new windows to put their money. You recall that once interest rates went really, really low in the treasury bills market, in the money market generally, people needed to look for alternative windows, and the stock market provided an avenue for that. And you saw the stock market registering last year was judged as the best, I think, in the world, if not now, at least in Africa, if not the world, and that was as a result of that. Now, we are hearing, it's just snippets of information coming out and saying that foreign players will be excluded from Omo Bills market. And then investors, obviously, once information goes out like this, you find investors will take a position, on the basis of the information that they are getting, So if they are bearish, it means that they are holding back, they are not bullish about the market, because they don't know what might happen. We looked across the different segments of the fixed income and money markets. We've seen Naira edging low by 2 Naira week on week. On the street, it wobbled in the importers and exporters window, and then you have a situation where CBN is likely to call in the matured bills, Omo bills that are worth about 50 billion. So you expect the market, to respond to that, there will be some activities, So liquidity, if 50 billion naira is entering the market this week, then you have some activities that will take place as a result of that.
Okay, Mr. Philip, readers can also turn their attention to the insurance sector on page 14. I found that one really interesting. The relevance of brokers' role in a digital era. We'll have to draw the curtain at this point. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll get back to you on Friday for more conversation on developing stories this week, Mr. Philip.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Have a great day.
You too. Bye. That was Philip Isapa, the publisher, Business AM, Nigeria's fastest growing financial and business newspaper.